My name is Serena Hollis, and I'm 33 years old. People talk about betrayal like it's a scream, like it's the kind of thing that breaks windows and flips tables and leaves you sobbing in a restaurant bathroom. Sometimes it's not loud. Sometimes it's a quiet click inside your chest, like a lock turning, and suddenly you're on the outside of the life you thought was yours. The wedding was supposed to happen tomorrow. Instead, I'm sitting in my apartment, lease and utilities in my name, staring at a stack of half-folded garment bags and wondering how a person can have everything planned down to the napkin color and still not see the blade coming. Grant Mercer and I had been together 3 years, long enough for his toothbrush to live beside mine, long enough for my mother to stop calling him your friend, long enough for me to stop flinching when someone said the word forever. He was 31, charming in the way men are charming when they've practiced. Not the slimy kind, the polished kind, the kind that made servers smile and uncles nod approvingly and strangers assume he was safe. We met at a friend's housewarming party and bonded over mutual hatred of IPAs and an unhealthy love of true crime podcasts. We were normal people doing normal things. He worked in marketing. I worked in commercial property management. We argued about thermostat settings and which grocery store had the better rotisserie chicken. We booked a venue, put down deposits, built a timeline. And then, a week ago, Madeline Pierce arrived. Grant called her his college best friend, his best woman, because he didn't do the groomsman thing. And he said he liked that Madeline had always been the one who told him the truth, even when it stung. She flew in from out of state with a carry-on and a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. She was pretty in a clean, effortless way, jeans, sweater, hair pulled back like she didn't need anyone's approval. I'd met her exactly twice. Once on a video call when Grant was showing me pictures from college, too many group shots, too many parties, Madeline always slightly off to the side like she was watching the room instead of being in it. And once, briefly, at our engagement party, where she hugged Grant tight, then shook my hand like we were closing a business deal. Quiet, a little standoffish. Whatever, not everyone is warm. Not everyone wants to be my friend. Grant was thrilled to have her here for wedding prep. They were inseparable the minute she landed. Dress fittings, vendor meetings, late-night catch-up talks over wine. I told myself it made sense. This was his best friend. This was wedding chaos. This was normal. That's the thing about people who are good at lying. They don't build a lie out of nothing. They build it out of things that could be true. Yesterday, I was working from home, catching up on paperwork I wanted off my plate before the wedding. The apartment was quiet in that satisfied way. Dishwasher humming, sunlight leaking through blinds, my laptop open like a promise. Grant and Madeline had gone out for a final venue walkthrough and a last meeting with our florist. Before he left, he leaned in my office doorway, kissed the top of my head, and said, "Babe, can you check my email later? The florist was supposed to send the final invoice." My stomach did that small, warm thing it still did when he called me babe. "Yeah," I said, "of course." His laptop was on the kitchen table when they left, plugged in, pinging notifications every few minutes like a heartbeat. I told myself I wasn't snooping. I told myself he asked me to check. I told myself I was being helpful. I opened his email, found the florist invoice right away. Subject line, final floral breakdown. And I clicked it, skimmed it, mentally noted the numbers. Then I saw a folder in the sidebar I'd never noticed before. It wasn't labeled work or receipts or anything normal. It was a private-looking label, something like a nickname, something deliberately vague. Like a door someone didn't expect you to try. My cursor hovered. My brain said, "Don't. This is invasive. This is weird." My body said, "Something is wrong." That's what I mean about the click. My hands went cold. My pulse moved up into my throat. My mouth dried out like my body was prepping for impact. I clicked, and the world rearranged itself in one breath. 5 years of emails, not scattered, not accidental, organized, preserved, between Grant and Madeline. They weren't talking like old college buddies. They were talking like people who had built a life inside a secret room. There were anniversary emails. There were "I miss you wife" messages. There were attached photos I wish I could delete from my brain with my bare hands. There were financial discussions about maintaining separate residences because of family expectations, about how long they could keep the arrangement running, about timing. Then I saw one email thread that made my vision blur. It was dated 8 months ago. The night Grant proposed to me, Madeline had written, "So you're really doing this? Marrying her?" Grant's response sat there like poison. He wrote that his parents would never accept the truth, that they'd cut him off if he didn't settle down with the right kind of woman, that I was stable, that I had a solid job, that I wouldn't ask too many questions. And then, like he was ordering furniture, like he was building a plan on a whiteboard, he wrote the sentence that turned my stomach into stone. It's not forever. We ride this out a few years, build up assets, then I can divorce her. You're my real wife. She's just the insurance policy. Insurance policy. 3 years of my life. Insurance policy. My hands started shaking. Not dramatically, not in a way anyone would notice if they walked in. Just a fine tremor, like my body was trying to vibrate itself out of reality. I kept scrolling. More emails, more plans, references to my salary, my benefits, my retirement contributions. There was a disgusting clinical tone to it, like I was a resource, a package, a payout. My eyes burned, but I didn't cry. Not yet. Crying felt like it belonged to a version of me who could still afford to fall apart. A different version of me stepped forward instead. The version that pays bills on time. The version that reads contracts. The version that knows. You don't confront someone who has already proved they can lie with a straight face. My hands stopped shaking long enough to do what I do best. I started collecting receipts. I took screenshots. Every thread that mattered. Every line that proved intent. Every mention of the marriage. Every reference to my usefulness. I downloaded the entire folder onto a USB drive I kept in my desk for work. It took maybe 20 minutes. It felt like I aged 10 years. When I finished, I put the laptop back exactly where I found it, as if I'd never touched it. I stood in the kitchen for a long second, staring at the table like it was the scene of a crime. Then I walked into my office, closed the door, and stood there with my hand on the knob, breathing like someone who just barely made it out of deep water. The hurt came in waves, the anger sat underneath it like lava. But the clearest thing was the calm. Crystal, terrifying calm. I picked up my phone and started making calls. First, my attorney. Not my best friend's cousin. Not a maybe. An actual attorney I'd used through work. Dylan Price, a man who'd reviewed commercial leases for me and had once mentioned, almost casually, that he did family law too. He answered on the third ring. Serena? I need you, I said, and my voice didn't crack, which scared me more than if it had. I found evidence my fiancé is legally married to someone else. Silence. Then, carefully, send me what you have. I emailed the screenshots and a few key files while we stayed on the phone. Dylan exhaled once, slow, like he was reading something heavy. Okay, he said. Do not confront him yet. Not tonight. This could be fraud. Potentially bigamy, if he goes through with marrying you while still married. I need to review, but Serena, don't tip your hand. I stared at my office wall, blank and beige, like it could hold me up. What do I do? I asked. Right now? Cancel the wedding, he said. No hesitation. Change your locks. Document everything. Pack his belongings. I'll have paperwork drafted by tomorrow. I swallowed. Okay. Next call, the venue. The manager tried to convince me to postpone, offered alternate dates, told me deposits were non-refundable. I kept repeating, family emergency, cannot proceed, need to cancel immediately. I lost the deposit. I didn't care. Then the caterer, the photographer, the band, the florist, the hotel blocks, transportation. One by one, I canceled everything like I was pulling pins out of a grenade before it could go off in my hands. By the end, I'd burned close to $20,000 in deposits. Worth every penny if it meant I didn't wake up married to a man who'd been using me like a financial product. Grant came home that evening smiling like the world was still intact. He talked about how perfect everything looked at the venue, how Madeline was so helpful, how excited he was for tomorrow. I ordered Thai food. We ate dinner at our kitchen table like we were any normal couple on the eve of a wedding. He chatted about seating arrangements, about who would cry first, about the song he picked for our first dance. I made the right noises. I nodded. I smiled when he smiled. Inside, I felt like I was watching my own life through glass. He went to bed early, said he needed beauty sleep. I waited until I heard the bedroom door close. Then I called a locksmith. $300 for same-day emergency service. He arrived late, installed new locks while the city outside our window kept moving like nothing had happened. When he left, I stood at the door, turned the new key, and listened to the sound. That click. It wasn't just a lock. It was a line. Then I started packing. Every piece of clothing, every toiletry, every gadget, his spare phone chargers, his gym shoes, the stupid novelty mug his mother gave him last Christmas, his laptop bag, his tablet, everything. I boxed it all up and stacked the boxes in the spare bedroom like I was clearing out a tenant, not erasing a fiancé. On top of the highest stack, I placed Dylan's letter, printed, signed, cold, and official. I slept maybe 2 hours on the couch, waking up every time my brain tried to rewind the emails, like it could find a version where they didn't exist. Morning came too fast. I heard Grant's alarm. I heard him moving around, humming under his breath, like today was still going to be the happiest day of our lives. Then the bedroom door opened. Silence, long enough that my skin prickled. "What is this?" he said, voice thin. I sat up slowly on the couch and looked at him standing in the hallway holding the letter, his face pale like someone had drained him. "We need to talk," he whispered. And for the first time since the click, I felt something hot rise in my chest. Not rage, not grief, clarity. "Actually," I said, and my voice sounded like mine again, "we don't." His eyes flicked toward the spare room, toward the boxes, toward the neatness of my goodbye. Then his face changed, anger trying to outrun fear. "You went through my private emails," he snapped. "That's illegal." I blinked once. "You're married to someone else," I said, "and you were going to marry me tomorrow anyway." His mouth opened, then closed. "That marriage isn't real," he said quickly, like he'd practiced the line. "It was for insurance when we were younger. It doesn't mean anything." "The emails say different," I said. "The part where you call her your wife, the part where you call me your insurance policy, that was pretty clear." His cheeks flushed, caught. "I can't believe you'd violate my privacy like this," he said, voice rising. "You're acting crazy." "And I can't believe you'd commit bigamy," I said, standing now. My legs felt steady, which was surreal. But here we are. "This is my home too," he said, stepping forward. "You can't just kick me out." I lifted my chin. "The lease is in my name," I said. "You're not on it. Legally, you're a guest who overstayed. My attorney confirmed it." His eyes narrowed. "Attorney?" "You have 48 hours to retrieve your belongings," I said, nodding toward the letter. "Through my attorney, not through me." He stared at me like he didn't recognize the person in front of him. Then his mouth twisted. "You'll regret this." I felt my throat tighten, not with fear, with the weight of what I'd lost. "I already regret the last 3 years," I said quietly. "The door's that way." He stood there for one more second, like he was waiting for me to crumble. When I didn't, he spun on his heel, stomped into the bedroom, and slammed the door. I heard him on the phone, voice sharp, rising and falling, calling someone to fix what he'd broken. I walked into the kitchen and made coffee with hands that didn't shake anymore. An hour later, he emerged with an overnight bag. His eyes were red. His anger had cooled into something uglier, calculation. "This isn't over," he said. "It is for me," I replied. He walked out, and when the door shut behind him, the apartment felt different. Lighter, but not peaceful. Like a storm had passed and left the air charged. I updated the building access system, informed the concierge he was no longer authorized, and then I sent one group text to my immediate family and closest friends. "Wedding canceled. I'm okay. I'll explain later. Please don't contact Grant." My mom called within minutes. Her voice was bright with confusion, then fear. "Serena," she said, "what on earth happened?" I stared at the half-empty garment bag hanging in the corner of the room, the dress that was supposed to mean something tomorrow. And the click inside me held. "He's been married to someone else for 5 years," I said. Silence. Then my mother inhaled like she'd been punched. And somewhere far below, the grief finally began to climb the stairs toward me. The first thing grief did was wait. It didn't hit me in some cinematic collapse the moment Grant walked out. It hovered at the edge of my vision like smoke, like my body didn't trust itself to fall apart until every practical task was locked down. I stayed moving. That's how I survived the first day. My mother arrived an hour after my call, still wearing her coat because she forgot how doors worked when she was scared. She stepped into my apartment like she expected to see a crime scene tape. She looked at my face, and whatever she saw there made her voice go soft. "Oh, honey." I didn't let her hug me yet. Not because I didn't want it, because if she touched me, I knew I'd splinter. "I'm okay," I lied, and it sounded convincing enough to pass as truth. She held my hands anyway, thumbs rubbing my knuckles like she was trying to warm life back into them. "Tell me exactly what happened." So I did. Small, careful pieces. The strange folder, the emails, the words insurance policy, like a stain that wouldn't come out. I didn't mention the photos. Some things didn't need to live in my mother's mind. Her mouth trembled as she listened. When I finished, her eyes flashed with something sharp and maternal. "He used you," she whispered, like she couldn't believe she was saying it out loud. "He used my daughter. My phone lit up with missed calls, unknown numbers, blocked IDs, a voicemail from someone who sounded like they were trying to make their anger sound polite. I didn't listen. I didn't need to. Dylan called next. Locks changed? He asked. Yes. Belongings boxed? Yes. Any confrontation last night? Minimal, I said. He tried to accuse me of violating his privacy. I told him the lease is in my name and he has 48 hours through you. A pause, then. Good. Keep it that way. Don't engage. Document everything. I stared at the neat stack of boxes in the spare room, labeled with a black marker like a warehouse inventory. Clothes, shoes, tech, toiletries. The same handwriting I used at work when I was trying to control chaos. Serena, Dylan said, voice gentler now, I'm drafting a formal notice. It states you discovered he's legally married, that he misrepresented his marital status, and that you are terminating the relationship immediately. It also demands reimbursement for wedding expenses and any financial losses. My throat tightened. Can he sue me for looking at his emails? Based on what you've told me, Dylan said, you were asked to check an invoice on a device left in a shared space. We can argue reasonable access. More importantly, if he tries to pursue anything, he'd have to address the elephant in the room. The marriage, the fraud, the bigamy risk. That word made me feel cold all over. Bigamy. Something that sounded like a headline, not like a man who used my shampoo and stole my time. He's going to try to control the narrative, Dylan added. Be ready. I'm always ready, I said, and realized I meant it. After Dylan hung up, my mother made tea, like she was trying to restore normalcy, with boiling water and chamomile. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Grant had joked about our first dance less than 24 hours ago. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unfamiliar number. You're ruining everything. Call me. I blocked it. Another number. This is a misunderstanding. You need to calm down and talk to him like an adult. Blocked. A third? You owe Grant an explanation. Blocked. My mother's face went pale with rage. Who is that? His people, I said, and the words tasted bitter. The ones who think his charm is a substitute for honesty. My sister Nina called next, voice sharp like a blade. Serena, Mom said the wedding is canceled. Tell me right now this isn't because you got cold feet. It's because Grant is married, I said. There was a beat of silence, then Nina actually laughed, a startled, disbelieving sound. Stop! I wish I could, I said. He's been married to Madeline Pierce for 5 years. The way Nina said, oh my God, sounded like she needed to sit down. Are you safe? She asked. All business now. Yes. Good, she snapped. Because I will drive over there and bite him. Despite everything, a sound that might have been a laugh escaped me. It cracked in the middle like glass. Then my brother Jonah texted. What? Helpful, classic Jonah. By afternoon, the wedding that was supposed to happen tomorrow became a ghost. Vendors sent sympathy emails. The hotel block manager asked if I wanted to reschedule. The florist asked if there was any way to salvage arrangements. It was surreal. The world still wanted me to pick a centerpiece while my life was actively on fire. That night, the apartment felt too quiet without Grant's noise in it. I walked room to room and saw him everywhere anyway. The dent in the couch cushion, the cologne bottle on the bathroom shelf I hadn't thrown out yet, the stupid hook by the door where his keys used to hang. My mother stayed with me. She didn't ask. She just spread a blanket on the couch and said, I'm not leaving you alone tonight. I pretended I didn't need her. Around midnight, I finally listened to one voicemail. It was Grant. His voice sounded different now, less charming, more desperate. Serena, please, this is not what it looks like. You're making this so much bigger than it is. Madeline and I, listen, it was a college thing. We did paperwork for insurance and it got messy. But it's not real. It's not like that anymore. I love you. I'm supposed to marry you tomorrow. Just call me back, please. I deleted it, not because it didn't hurt. Because it was insultingly strategic. He didn't say I'm sorry. He said you're making this bigger. Like the betrayal wasn't the problem. My reaction was. Morning came. The morning that was supposed to be my wedding day. I woke up and for half a second my body tried to run the old script. Wedding adrenaline, hair appointment, dress, photos. Then reality sat on my chest like a weight. My mother brought me coffee and didn't say a word. Just set it down like an offering. Her eyes were red. Mine were dry. I don't know what to do with today, I admitted, voice small. Then we do nothing, she said. We survive it. I tried to work. I opened my laptop and made my eyes skim a lease review like words could anchor me back to normal. It didn't work. At 10:43 a.m., the front desk called. Ms. Hollis? The concierge asked, voice careful. Yes. There are 2 people in the lobby asking to come up. They're insisting they need to speak with you. My stomach dropped, not from surprise, from the sick knowing that of course he would do this today. Of course he couldn't let me have even one day without his interference. Who are they? I asked, though I already knew. Your ex-fiancé, the concierge said slowly, and another woman. They're saying she needs to be there. Madeline. My fingers tightened around my phone. Are they being aggressive? They're persistent, he said. Would you like me to refuse them? Part of me wanted to say no, to barricade myself in my apartment and pretend the world outside wasn't trying to claw at my door. But another part of me, colder, clearer, wanted to look them in the face and watch them try to sell me a lie I'd already read in their own words. Send them up, I said. My mother's head snapped up. Serena, I'm not letting them corner me in the lobby, I said quietly. If they're coming here, where I have the locks and the letter and the documentation. She stood immediately, like she was ready to become a human shield. You're not doing this alone. I'm not inviting them inside, I promised. I checked the deadbolt twice. Then I opened the door just enough to leave it ajar, a controlled gap, a boundary. We waited. The elevator dinged. Footsteps down the hallway. 2 sets. One confident, one hesitant. Then they appeared. Grant first, dressed like he was still trying to play the role of groom. Button-down shirt, hair neatly styled, face carefully arranged into concern. Madeline beside him in jeans and a hoodie, arms folded like she was bracing for impact. Her eyes were sharp and tired. They stood together in my hallway like a united front, like they'd rehearsed this. Grant spoke first, voice soft, practiced. Serena, can we please come in and talk? I didn't move. No, I said, the hallway works fine. His jaw tightened just for a second before the smile returned. Okay, fine. Madeline stepped forward, her tone smoother than his, like she was used to smoothing over his rough edges. Look, she said, there's clearly been some kind of misunderstanding. I felt my mouth curves into something that wasn't a smile. A misunderstanding, I repeated. You married him 5 years ago. Grant's eyes flashed. Madeline didn't blink. It's complicated. It's actually not, I said. You're legally married. Grant proposed to me. He planned to marry me tomorrow, while still married to you. Where exactly is the misunderstanding? Grant cut in quickly, too quickly. That marriage isn't real, he said again, like if he said it enough times it would become truth. It was paperwork, benefits, insurance. It wasn't supposed to be permanent. I tilted my head. Funny, I said, because the emails where you call each other husband and wife and plan your future together suggest otherwise. Madeline's eyebrows lifted. Wait, she said slowly, eyes shifting to Grant. What emails? The air changed. Grant's face went tight in the way a liar's face does when the lie begins to slip. I could see it. This wasn't the script they'd agreed on. He turned slightly toward Madeline, voice low. Serena went through my private email. Madeline stared at him, then at me. You read our emails? She asked. I didn't go looking for your love story, I said. I went looking for a florist invoice. Your secret folder did the rest. Madeline's eyes narrowed, not at me, but at him. Grant swallowed. This is exactly what I mean, he said, turning back to me, trying to regain control. This is insane. You're blowing up our lives over something you don't understand. I felt something in my chest settle, calm and heavy. Oh, I said softly, I understand perfectly. Madeline's gaze stayed pinned on Grant now, like she was seeing him for the first time. You told me, she said, voice dropping. You told me she didn't know anything. You told me you had it handled. Grant's face flushed. Maddie. She took a half step away from him. I leaned against my door frame, watching the crack widen. And for the first time since yesterday, I felt the grief pause. Because curiosity, dark, sharp curiosity, started to take its place. Because whatever they'd come here to do, one thing was already clear. They weren't as united as they wanted me to believe. Madeline's eyes didn't leave Grant. Not even when he tried to laugh it off. Soft, breathy, like the sound itself could smooth over the damage. Babe, he said to her, reaching for her elbow. This is getting twisted. Serena doesn't have the full picture. Madeline pulled her arm away. What picture? She asked quietly. Did you tell her? Grant's jaw worked. He glanced at me like I was an audience he could still manipulate. I told you, he said, sharper now, that she knew about us, that she was okay with it, that we had an arrangement. I actually laughed. It slipped out of me before I could stop it. Short, incredulous, edged with disbelief. You told her I was okay with you being married to her? I asked. Madeline turned slowly toward me. He said you understood, she said, that you knew we were legally married but emotionally separated. that you were fine with it because it was temporary. The word temporary landed like a slap. I nodded once. That's fascinating, because I found out yesterday, accidentally, while checking a florist invoice. Madeline's face went very still. Then she looked back at Grant, and something in her expression hardened into something dangerous. You lied to both of us, she said. Grant scoffed. That's not... You told me, she continued, voice rising now, that she knew everything. You told me she was comfortable with the situation. You told me you weren't using her. My throat tightened, but I didn't interrupt. Grant's face flushed red, then white. You're overreacting, he snapped. This is exactly why I didn't want this conversation happening here. Oh, I think it's perfect, I said calmly. Please, continue. Madeline rounded on him. You told me she was just a formality, she said, that your parents forced your hand, that she was stable and convenient and... She stopped herself, eyes flicking to me. I raised my eyebrows. Go on. Her lips pressed together. That she wouldn't get hurt. Something inside me cracked. Not loudly, not cleanly, but enough that I felt it. Grant exploded. Can we stop pretending like this is all my fault? He said, voice echoing down the hallway now. You agreed to this. You knew why we did it. You knew the plan. The plan? Madeline shot back. The plan was you divorcing her in a couple of years. Quietly. Not marrying her in the first place while still married to me. That was never... Then why did you call her your insurance policy? I asked. Grant froze. Madeline's head snapped toward me. What? I met her gaze. His words, I said, in writing. Her face drained of color. You called her what? She whispered. Grant stammered. I didn't mean it like... You literally wrote it, I said. You wrote that I was stable, had a good income, good benefits, and wouldn't ask too many questions. That I'd fund your life while you waited things out. Madeline stared at him like he'd just grown a second head. That's what you think of her? She asked. That's what you think of me. He opened his mouth, then closed it. And suddenly they weren't a couple standing together in my hallway. They were two people realizing, at the exact same time, that the man between them had been playing a game with both their lives. Madeline stepped back. You told me, she said slowly, that you love me, that we were solid, that this was just logistics. Grant ran a hand through his hair, losing patience. I do love you, but I needed this to work. I needed stability. I felt something dark and calm settle into place. You needed my money, I said. Let's call it what it is. Madeline let out a bitter laugh. That's all he talks about, she said. Your apartment, your job, your benefits package. Shut up, Grant snapped at her. Don't tell me to shut up, she yelled back. You told me we were building something together. Their voices bounced off the walls. I saw my neighbor's door crack open 2 inches, then snap shut. This wasn't a private reckoning anymore. This was a public implosion. I cleared my throat. As entertaining as this is, I said evenly, why are you actually here? Grant turned back to me, face rearranging itself into something almost pitiful. You need to fix this, he said. You need to tell people the truth. I blinked. I am. No, he insisted. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them you jumped to conclusions. Everyone thinks I'm some kind of criminal. You are, I said. You committed fraud. Madeline flinched. I loved you, Grant said, voice breaking just enough to sound real. I still love you. I felt tired suddenly. Bone tired. You loved what I provided, I said. Let's not confuse things. Madeline scoffed loudly. He's not wrong, she said. That's all you ever talk about. Enough, Grant shouted, full volume now. The hallway fell quiet. I straightened. We're done here, I said. You're not coming back. Don't show up again. Grant's eyes flicked toward the apartment. My laptop. I shook my head. It's boxed, with your other things. I need it, he said, stepping closer. All my work is on it. You can arrange pickup through my attorney, I replied. His contact information is in the letter. That's insane, Grant said. Just let me grab it. I didn't move. You lied to me for 3 years, I said. You planned to commit bigamy. I don't trust you anywhere near my home. Madeline grabbed his arm. This is pointless. Let's go. But Grant planted his feet. I'm not leaving without my things. I pulled out my phone. Then I'm calling the police for trespassing. His eyes widened. Trespassing? I was going to marry you. You're already married to her, I said, pointing at Madeline. So legally, you have zero claim to anything here. I began dialing. Madeline swore under her breath and physically dragged him toward the elevator. You're ruining everything, he yelled back over his shoulder as the doors slid shut. I watched the elevator numbers descend. Then I closed my door, locked it, and leaned my forehead against the wood for a long moment, breathing through the adrenaline. An hour later, Dylan called. You're not going to like this, he said. I sighed. Try me. Grant left me a voicemail threatening to sue for return of his belongings, also claiming you illegally accessed his email. Can he? I asked. On the email issue, Dylan said, we'll argue reasonable access. But here's the thing. He'd have to admit to being married while engaged to you. That opens him up to criminal exposure. Mutually assured destruction. I exhaled slowly. So what now? I'm demanding return of your financial contributions, Dylan said. Wedding deposits, gifts, expenses, damages for fraud. How much? You mentioned roughly $35,000 in deposits and direct costs. About that. I'll demand 50, he said. Leaves room to negotiate. He doesn't have that kind of money, I said. No, Dylan replied calmly, but his parents do. That night, messages started pouring in, from people who clearly had only heard one side. She made one mistake. You're being cruel. You're destroying her life over a misunderstanding. I replied to one. She's legally married to someone else and planned to marry me anyway. That's not a mistake. That's fraud. I was blocked immediately. Fine. Anyone willing to swallow his story without asking questions wasn't someone I needed in my life. The weirdest part? Wedding gifts started arriving. Boxes on my doorstep. Cards congratulating a future that no longer existed. My mother helped me pack them back up to return, her mouth set in a hard line. This is surreal, she muttered. It's temporary, I said. She looked at me sharply. So was he. I slept that night, deep, dreamless, like my body finally trusted the locks. But I should have known better, because Grant wasn't done, and neither was Madeline. They were about to try something dirtier. The first knock came 3 days later. Not loud, not aggressive. Official. I was standing in my kitchen, staring at a mug I'd already reheated twice without drinking, when the sound landed, measured, patient, impossible to ignore. When I opened the door, 2 police officers stood in the hallway. My heart didn't race. That surprised me. Serena Hollis, the older one asked. Yes. We've received a report that you're unlawfully withholding someone's personal property. I nodded once. Grant Mercer. The younger officer shifted his weight, already uncomfortable. Yes, ma'am, he said. He claims you're refusing to return his belongings. I stepped aside just enough for them to see the neatly stacked boxes in the spare room, labels facing outward like evidence at trial. I'm not refusing, I said calmly. I've asked him to arrange pickup through my attorney. His contact information is in the formal notice he received. The older officer sighed, long and tired, like this wasn't his first rodeo with a breakup gone nuclear. He also alleges, the younger officer continued carefully, that you accessed his private email without permission. I didn't flinch. He left his laptop in a shared space and asked me to check an invoice, I said. While doing so, I discovered evidence that he is legally married to another individual and was planning to marry me anyway. Silence. The older officer closed his eyes for half a second. Is that true? He asked. Yes, I said, and my attorney has the documentation. The younger officer swallowed. Ma'am, that's a civil matter, and potentially a criminal one, for him. The older officer nodded. This is not theft. He needs to handle this through lawyers. They left. I closed the door gently, locked it, and leaned against it as my hands finally started to shake. Not from fear, from rage. Grant didn't just want his things. He wanted control back. He wanted me scared. An hour later, Dylan called. He filed the report, he said. Exactly like I predicted. Don't worry, it backfired. I know, I said, but he's escalating. Yes, Dylan replied, and so are we. The next escalation hit where I hadn't expected it. Work. My supervisor, Ellen, called me into her office that afternoon. Her tone was careful, professional, concerned. We got a strange call today, she said once the door closed. A man claiming to be your ex-fiancé. My stomach sank. He said you're mentally unstable, she continued, that you're having a breakdown, that you might be dangerous. I stared at her. He suggested we should check on you, for everyone's safety. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because the audacity of it stole my breath. I pulled out my phone. May I asked. Ellen nodded. I showed her everything. The marriage certificate records I'd pulled, the email screenshots, the timeline, the attorney's letters, the police report reference number from earlier that day. She read quietly. Then she leaned back in her chair, eyes hard. That is completely insane, she said. Yes, I agreed. It is. She slid my phone back across the desk. You're not in trouble. If he contacts us again, we'll document it as harassment and block the number. I exhaled, slow and shaky. Thank you. Go home early today, she added gently. You've been through enough. I thought that might be the end of it. I was wrong. That night, my phone started vibrating nonstop. Texts from friends of friends, screenshots, links, Madeline had posted a long, carefully worded social media essay about abusive partners who can't handle strong female friendships and use control disguised as love. She didn't name me. She didn't have to. The comments were full of sympathy, hearts, fire emojis, people praising her bravery. I felt nauseous. My sister saw it before I could stop her. She called me furious. "She's painting you like a monster," Nina said. "Like you're some controlling psycho." "I know," I said quietly. "Do you want me to respond?" "No." But my brother didn't ask. Jonah commented publicly before I even saw it. "Interesting how you're married to her ex-fiancé and helped him commit fraud, but he's the controlling one." The post disappeared within the hour, but the damage was done. People had seen it. Questions started circling, whispers. That familiar social media fog where truth and performance blur into something ugly. Grant's parents called Dylan the next morning, not to apologize, to scream. A 5-minute voicemail accusing me of harassment, extortion, cruelty, and destroying their son's life over a misunderstanding. Dylan added it to the file. Then came their first settlement offer, $8,000, in exchange for dropping all claims and signing an NDA. "They're lowballing," Dylan said, "and they want your silence." "No," I said immediately. "Thought so," we countered. 25,000, no NDA. Days passed with no response. The silence stretched. And then, just when my nervous system was starting to believe the worst might be over, the universe cracked open again. The call came from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but I was waiting on vendor refunds, so I did. "This is going to sound completely crazy," a man's voice said, hesitant, "but I think you might be the woman who was engaged to Grant Mercer." My spine went rigid. "Yes," I said slowly. "I'm engaged to Madeline Pierce." Everything inside me went quiet. "What?" I whispered. "We've been together 8 months, he continued, engaged for 3. She told me she was divorced, said her college marriage was a mistake that ended years ago." My stomach dropped. "She posted something online about abuse," he said. "I started digging, court records, marriage certificates, and then I found you." I closed my eyes. "There's more," he added. "I canceled our wedding, kicked her out. But I think these two have been running parallel scams." The word scams felt suddenly accurate, not dramatic. Precise. "What's your name?" I asked. "Evan," he said. "Evan Klein." We talked for over an hour. Ring receipts, venue deposits, texts about futures that were never real. Different details. Same pattern. When we hung up, my hands were shaking again, but this time not from fear. From certainty. Grant and Madeline weren't just liars. They were professionals, and they had finally picked the wrong people to lie to. I texted Dylan. "We need to talk. There's another fiancé." He called immediately. "Oh," he said after I explained. "That changes everything." "How?" "They're now looking at fraud claims from 2 victims," he said, "and potential bigamy charges that might actually stick." I sat down slowly. "And their parents?" "They'll panic," Dylan said. "Give it 24 hours." He was right. 2 days later, the phone rang again. "New offer," Dylan said. 30,000, no NDA, plus a written admission from Grant acknowledging he misrepresented his marital status. My chest tightened. "And the catch? You agree not to pursue criminal bigamy charges." I stared out my window at the city moving on without me. 30,000 wouldn't erase the damage. But the admission was power. "Counter at 35, I said, "and I'll take it." There was a pause. "Done," Dylan said. I closed my eyes. Somewhere across town, Grant and Madeline were turning on each other. And for the first time since the click, I felt the ground start to steady under my feet. But this wasn't the end. Not yet. The paperwork took a week. 7 days of emails, revisions, red lines, and careful language designed to sound calm while documenting something profoundly ugly. I signed everything at my kitchen table, the same one where Grant had once balanced wedding brochures, and joked about our seating chart. Dylan walked me through each page on speakerphone, his voice steady, precise. When I reached the final document, the admission, my hand paused. 1 page, 1 paragraph. Grant's name printed cleanly at the top. I misrepresented my marital status to Serena Hollis. At the time of our engagement, I was legally married to another individual and intentionally failed to disclose this information. This caused significant financial and emotional harm. Notarized, signed. I exhaled as I wrote my name beneath it. The money hit my account the following morning. 35,000. It wasn't everything I lost. Not the deposits, not the moving expenses, not the attorney fees, not the 3 years of my life I'd invested believing in a man who saw me as a financial strategy. But it was real, and more importantly, so was the truth. Documented, undeniable, preserved. Dylan kept copies. I kept one in my safe deposit box. "If anyone ever questions you," he said, "this ends the conversation." Evan didn't settle. He went scorched earth. Fraud complaints, civil filings, contact with the district attorney about bigamy prosecution. He sent me one text afterward. "I'm not letting her rewrite this." I believed him. Word filtered back through mutual acquaintances, because it always does. Grant and Madeline turned on each other completely. Accusations, screaming matches, friends choosing sides, then no sides at all. Madeline disappeared first, moved out of state, apparently, dropped off social media like someone fleeing a crime scene. Grant tried to hang on, posting vague quotes about betrayal and resilience, but his freelance contracts dried up fast. Turns out clients don't love working with someone under investigation for fraud. His parents were still paying his rent, still trying to manage the fallout, but even they were exhausted. Their tone shifted from defensive to weary. One last voicemail came from his mother, crying, pleading for understanding, asking me to remember the good times. I deleted it halfway through. Compassion doesn't mean self-erasure. 2 weeks later, I moved. I didn't want to live inside a place where every wall remembered him. I found a smaller apartment closer to work, less charm, more peace. My brother helped me haul boxes. My mom folded towels like she was trying to bless the space. She wouldn't take gas money. "I just want to know you're settled," she said. Therapy started shortly after. My therapist said something that stuck with me. Relief and grief can exist at the same time. Relief that I escaped. Grief for the future I thought I was building. Work stabilized. That deal I'd been distracted from during the chaos finally closed. My boss gave me a bonus and told me, quietly, that I'd handled myself with more professionalism than anyone had a right to expect. Wedding gifts stopped arriving. Most were returned. One, from my old college roommate, stayed. Expensive whiskey, a note taped to the bottle. For dodging a bullet. I kept that one. The final contact attempt came a month later. The concierge called. "She's in the lobby asking to come up," he said. "Your ex." "If she doesn't leave immediately," I replied, "call the police for trespassing." She left. That was it. No dramatic closure. No apology. Just absence. Life is different now. I'm single, cautious, rebuilding. Dating isn't on my calendar yet. Trust doesn't reboot on demand. Therapy helps. So does silence. So does knowing that the version of me who noticed the click didn't ignore it. I'm not grateful this happened. I'm not spinning it into a lesson wrapped in toxic positivity. This hurt. It cost me money, time, certainty, but it also saved me from marrying a man who was actively defrauding me. Before children, before joint assets, before years of legal entanglement. The timing was brutal. It could have been worse. I found the old wedding planning folder in my email last week. Guest lists, contracts, the future I almost stepped into. I deleted it without opening a single file. That life doesn't exist. This one does. And when people ask if I regret exposing Grant, the answer comes easily. No. He made choices, deliberate, calculated choices. He earned every consequence. As for me, I've got a life to rebuild. And this time it's honest.